Test. There we go. There we are. Okay.
It's time for the final word in sports all across the state. You're listening to Sports Talk with your hosts, Phil Kornblut, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes. You've been waiting all day, so join the show now by calling 800-956-7266.
Effective immediately, Coach Pitino has been placed on an unpaid administrative leave. Coach Pitino's employment will be reviewed at a later date. We will continue throughout this process to follow university personnel policy. Effective immediately, Vice President for Intercollegiate Athletics Tom Jurich has been placed on a paid administrative leave. The leave will continue until the Board of Trustees has an opportunity to evaluate his continued employment at or before its regularly scheduled meeting on October 18th.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network on a Wednesday night. Phil Kornblut, Will Pelagic. We are up in Greenville at the Embassy Suites Hotel on the West End, up on the roof with the good folks from Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. It's Furman night here on Sports Talk in our second hour. We will have with us the athletics director from Furman University, Mike Buddy. We'll have head football coach Clay Hendricks with us and basketball coach Bob Ritchie. And not only will we talk to them about things going on in their respective programs, but, of course, with the things happening nationally in college basketball, and you heard the opening with Rick Pitino basically being fired at Louisville and the athletics director also being fired at Louisville over the FBI investigation. This impacts everybody in college athletics in some form or another. Will, at least from the standpoint of just the national perception now of big-time college basketball, you don't want to paint everybody with the same brush. I'm not implying that every coach or assistant coach has something going on under the table, but, I mean, from here on moving forward for the foreseeable future, people are going to question when big-time players go somewhere, was this all done above board?
Well, there was always the conjecture and the air of this underbelly that involved the recruiting game behind college basketball and all the money that went in behind the scenes. And we never really had anything concrete to pin on anybody. It was always just conjecture. It was always just supposition. This is the first concrete allegation that comes out of a grand nature. And again, we're talking about three separate issues involving not only the funneling of money to recruits to not only force them to go to a certain school, but also force them to sign with a certain company, and also to force them to sign with business advisors in order to manage their finances. It's a whole big rat race that goes on all across college basketball. I think this is just the first fruits of that particular investigation, because it seems like that there's more on the way. And the one first hammer that does drop is with Louisville, because of how much this school has found themselves in the blotter, if you will, when it comes to not only the NCAA investigation involving the escorts and the illegal money that was basically put out in that particular investigation. Rick Pitino had his own personal situations going on there at Louisville, and a lot of these coaches aren't exactly ones who have their whistles clean, if you will. So in that regard, we're seeing more and more why there's just a shadiness that sits in this particular sport, and I don't know how you come back from that. I don't know how the sport recovers from that. And I also think, too, that at least from South Carolina's perspective, they better hope that none of the things that were alleged happened, at least from the standpoint of Lamont Evans, while he was at South Carolina and involved South Carolina players, because if it did, then that could obviously develop into something much, much greater than we're thinking right now.
Absolutely. I got to believe that Ray Tanner and his staff are checking into everything behind the scenes at South Carolina to see what, if anything, might have happened on their watch there when Evans was with the Gamecocks. And, I'm not going to sit here and just say out of hand, it's impossible that something happened. I mean, who knows what might have happened. Same thing with Merle Code in Greenville and any teams around here that he might have been associated with. Who knows where these tentacles from this investigation are going to reach. Here locally, of course, you hope for the best, and you hope that programs here can avoid any sort of involvement in this. But when the FBI is involved and people that they are arresting, indicting, and interrogating, and these people start to sing and start to give them information, you don't know who they're going to bring into this investigation down the road.
And the real terrible thing, too, is that we're not talking about the NCAA. In the past, when we've talked about things, whether it was SMU, whether it's North Carolina, whether it's Baylor, Penn State, any of these investigations we've talked about in the past, we're talking about the NCAA. Well, this is the FBI. The powers that they have reach far beyond what the NCAA can do, especially when you're talking about subpoena power, wiretap power, the ability to get anybody on a stand and under oath. Like this is a much different situation and a much different animal that these schools are up against. And what happens when you're talking about threatening jail time? People usually sing. And I'm very, very curious to see who comes forward, who cops a deal, who does things as far as that hotline that was released today by the FBI, because there are going to be people who are calling up saying, I don't want to go to jail for 80 years. I want to maybe take a smaller sentence and tell you, hey, by the way, the stuff that's going on at School A, it's going on at School B too.
Professor Tom Hayes back at our studios in downtown Columbia. And, it took the FBI to bring down Rick Pitino, something the NCAA never could do completely, maybe never wanted to do. You have to wonder about where the NCAA is going to fit into this thing moving forward, as people see how impotent that organization is in enforcing its own rules and in dealing with the rule breakers within its own organization, that it takes an outside agency with some extreme powers like the FBI to come in and try and clean this stuff up.
Well, I think the Pandora's box is already open. We're talking about a multi-billion-dollar business that you have to know not only did the NCAA, which the organization are the member schools, and they were looking the other way, and what precipitated the FBI now to look into something when years ago we heard Wilt Chamberlain said, how does the guy from Philadelphia get to Kansas? Well, they got a little money in Kansas. Well, so it's been going on for decades, and people just let it go. Of course, there's a higher level because of the money that's involved. I'm just surprised right now because of the money involved that we haven't seen more from the IRS getting involved, because that's going to happen down the road as far as that's concerned. But the irony in the room is this: they get Rick Pitino at Louisville when Mr. Sleeves is right down the state in Lexington, Kentucky. That everybody used to talk about him every year about how did he get this guy? How did he get Rose to Memphis? How did he do this?
Marcus Camby to Massachusetts, the same thing. I mean, it's interesting with Calipari right down the street, and the fact that he outlasts Rick Pitino. That's the thing that surprises a lot. But I think Pro spoke to a very important point. There's too much incentive for the NCAA to turn a blind eye to this because of what they make on the NCAA tournament, because of what they make on the ancillary revenue standpoint. The NCAA operates, at least in principle, as a nonprofit agency, but they far from not make a profit. They do make a profit, especially on the NCAA tournament, not only on the TV deals that are involved in it, but also on the revenue that they get from the buildings. And in my mind, it would only be smart for them to turn a blind eye to this.
The attorney for Pitino just a little while ago issued, I guess, their first statement of the day. It's identified as a defiant statement in which he said that Pitino will inevitably exonerate him, the facts will, and that the rush to judge him was regrettable. This is from his attorney, Steve Pence, who said the university gave him no prior notice of disciplinary action or the opportunity to respond as required by his contract and university policy. It was interesting watching as Pitino drove up to the administration building where they met today. They had a meeting that lasted all of about 9 minutes before he turned around and walked out.
The car was idling still in the parking lot.
Unbelievable scene there in Louisville. Okay, we'll be back from Greenville and Columbia in a moment.
Now back to Sports Talk, South Carolina's most listened to sports talk show for more than 30 years.
We are back at Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Up on the roof in downtown Greenville, our good friend Randy Jolly from our affiliate here in Greenville, Fox Sports Radio, 1440, WGVL. Many years ago known as Four Towers of Power. Not sure those four towers are still standing out in Berea anymore on Whitehorse Road. Just one. A single dominating tower of power. Our affiliate here in Greenville,
We can see
Fox Sports Radio, joining us and helping us put everything together at a beautiful location up on the roof at the Embassy Suites Hotel, affiliated, connected to Ruth Chris Steakhouse here in Greenville.
You can see Fleur Field just right down the street there as well.
Yes, you can. Pull your mic
Oh,
there.
sorry about that.
Yeah, we're on the west end right next to Fleur Field. Great location. A wonderful breeze up here tonight. Randy, you did a great job. The skyline of Greenville surrounding us right behind the Peace Center. Great view. If you want to join us, 800-956-7266. We got some time for some phone calls here in this hour of the program. In our second hour, Clay Hendricks, Furman football coach, will be joining us. We'll also be joined by the Furman athletic director, Mike Buddy, former New York Yankee pitcher, and by Bob Ritchie, the brand new Furman basketball coach. So they'll be joining us in hour number 2 here on Sports Talk. 800-956-7266. As far as the football scene goes today, South Carolina, Clemson, other teams around the state, pretty quiet day. Just everybody preparing for their games this weekend. South Carolina heading out to Texas A&M. I watched last night a good bit of the Texas A&M Arkansas game. Got a chance to see the next two opponents for USC, the one on Saturday and the one next week. I mean, both of those teams went up and down the field. So if the Gamecocks can get their offense going and take advantage of opportunities like open receivers or maybe an occasional, big run or something like that, I think they can put some points on the board against a Texas A&M defense, which, even though they have a terrific defensive coordinator, they've just hit a vacuum there in College Station when it comes to playing defense. Maybe it's related to the type of offense they run.
Yeah, it's interesting looking at what they bring to the table, A&M. They do have some speed on defense, but they don't necessarily stop a lot of people, and they've had trouble with offenses that have been less proficient than the South Carolina Gamecocks have been. And the Gamecocks, despite only scoring 17 points on Saturday, up their total offense rank by 12 spots from 112 to 100. They're still struggling in the red zone. That's one thing that they still need to figure out. But one of the things that Will Muschamp said to us yesterday is the fact that he likes the amount of explosive plays they're getting. They just need to finish. And I think that's the one thing that if you look at South Carolina, they shoot themselves in the foot way too often, not only with the missed field goals, not only with the unable to convert on 3rd and goal and 4th and goal and 4th and 1 and things of that nature. There needs to at least be a bigger concerted effort to get the football in the end zone. I know it sounds very simplistic, but if they can find ways to turn those drives that were 0s into 3s and 3s into 7s, then they're going to be able to hang with a school like A&M, who does not have a very good defense. The only problem is this is probably the biggest test for South Carolina's D against an A&M-O that could score at least 40 points a game.
And then Clemson, of course, heading to Virginia Tech, and listening to some comments from Brent Venables, Clemson's defensive coordinator, in preparation for Virginia Tech. A lot of respect there for what Virginia Tech can do on offense. An exciting young quarterback, a talented receiver who had 12 catches against the Tigers in that ACC championship game last year. So they've got to be wary of him. They don't have right now a great running game at Virginia Tech. They have relied primarily on the passing arm of young Jackson, who ranks highly in the ACC, both in terms of total offense and in terms of completion percentage. So the Clemson pass rush will have to be good, and the secondary play will have to be sharp. And this is with a secondary that has some guys, of course, injured, questionable for the game. They're having to kind of dig a little deeper into their depth at secondary. to fill in some holes, but they believe in the young guys that they'll be running out there. That's going to be a heck of a game. Lane Stadium at night on a Saturday night.
Always a great atmosphere.
Always a great atmosphere. And they always have a very competitive team. Bud Foster with his defense, I was looking up some of his historical notes with their 2 shutouts that they've gotten so far this season. Under his tenure, which began in 1996, 33 shutouts and 68 defensive touchdowns scored under Bud Foster since 1996. I mean, that's impressive. That is impressive defense, and should have another good defensive team ready to face Clemson on Saturday night. All right, 800-956-7266. Let's hit the phone lines for a little bit, and we're headed to, I lost it, Brian. Where'd you say we're going? Let's go to Mark in Aiken, our first call tonight here on Sports Talk with our affiliate, Fox Sports Radio 1440 here at Up on the Roof in Greenville. How you doing, Mark? Good to have you with us.
Hey, Bill. Thank you for taking my question. I got a question for you. With the fiasco that is going down today with the whole Patino thing, do you guys see at all the NCAA bending on any rules whatsoever down the pike? I mean, the whole thing is you're never going to stop a kid getting a check in the mail or somebody handing, an anonymous letter to somebody. These backdoor deals, they're never going to stop. There's too much money to be made. So do you see, if they want to put a stop to that kind of stuff or put a dent in it, do you see them doing away with something like the one and done rule and just letting the kid go on out of high school that's a 5-star plus? They're going to get a shoe deal or they're going to get this and that, and then going on to the NBA and then eliminating, some kind of money. I mean, what is the is the NCAA going to bend at all? Are they going to stick to their guns on the rules? Is there going to be any compromise whatsoever? Or are they just going to let the chips fall where they may and go from there? Thanks.
The one and done rule is not an NCAA thing. It's an NBA thing. So it will take some cooperation from the NBA to make some sort of compromise with the NCAA, because I don't think you can go back to the old model. I think you're going to have to go to something that sounds like the baseball model, whereas you can come out of high school and then if you do go to college, then you have to stay at least 2 years or longer than that. And I don't know if we can go back to the way it was, because the way it was, too many people were coming out of high school and either sitting on NBA benches or not playing or going into the D-League or going into Europe and ending up bankrupt.
Yeah.
And that's not what the NCAA wants to have happen either.
I think that the one-and-done rule is the worst rule in sports. I think it's about as crazy as the NBA draft lottery. It's, you know what? If a kid wants to come out of high school and take his chances in the NBA and if he fails, that's his fault. Let him go do what he can do after his pro career fizzles. It's his decision. It's a free market. It's a free country. So you know what? I would suggest just doing away with it. And kids who want to go to college, good basketball players who want to go to college will go to college and go on scholarship, and you'll still have good basketball. Now, your great high school players who are your instant NBA potential players and stars, let them go. Kevin Garnett, Jermaine O'Neal, Zion Williamson. There's no reason for Zion Williamson to have to go to college for a year. If
Michael Porter Jr., same thing.
If his game is ready for the NBA and his family is willing to let him go to the NBA, go ahead. Because it's a farce to begin with to think that a kid who's going to college for 1 year is doing anything academically. It's a farce. And he's taking up room for somebody who might really want to be a student. So let him go. You know what? I've got no problem with that now. Just let them go. Will they do that one day? I think they will. I think the NCAA eventually is going to have to kind of just throw up its hands and say, we can't contain this. We cannot legislate morality in what we do. Look, another perfect example is the rule that they passed this summer to give players some time off and fewer hours within their sport, okay? So how are some coaches reacting to that, as we pointed out last night? Roy Williams and Mike Krzyzewski, they're opposed to it. So how are they trying to affect it? They're not going to take their players to ACC Media Day because it's going to be on their off day or would be on their off day, and they need them on campus for practice and can't afford to let them have that time off. So you make a rule, coaches are going to try and bend it to their satisfaction. All right, we'll be right back.
So here we go. Here we are.
Hey.
You have to put it horizontally. Put it horizontally, just because that's.
But it won't. We don't have.
You can move this.
Oh, yeah. Good point. Yeah, we can hear you.
We got the M&M boys coming up.
Oh, Lord. Dan from North Carolina.
We have the M&M boys, remember?
Yeah, M&M boys.
You have to give them their numbers. Here, I'll go back. I'll go out there and get it.
All right, let me give the M&M boys numbers. All right, Will Merritt is 864-444-3780. 864-444-3780. And Corey is 803-556-8133. 803-556-8133.
That win.
Corey said that he had some training he was doing with Watch 57. He was going to try to be with us.
How's that?
That was like, let's see, pro.
Ask him if he can see us.
Yeah, I think I see us in that little box.
Ask Brian if he can see us.
Brian, can you see us in there? He's calling the guys. Just let him concentrate. So how did you get that?
The Hangouts app.
I've got that in my phone somewhere. Let me see. You know what? I think I took it off my desktop. Yes. So you just hit the Hangout app?
Yeah.
I had it one time. There it is.
We can do mine for like the first hour, then do yours for the second hour.
If you want.
That way it doesn't jerk all both our batteries.
Yeah, there it is. That ain't coming. Told you. So just wait. Give the devil his due. Are we looking there, Brian? Well, there's not just love and not the right way. Well, we'll just move on. He did not respond. Never goes right when you are. I'm just telling you.
The kid from Malden will call in.
Who?
The guy from Malden that always calls in.
Yeah.
He'll call.
I hope somebody. You pick up after that. All right, we'll take the call. So you got Owen? Welcome back in, everybody. Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Bill Kornblut, Will Logic,
Sir.
here in Greenville, up on the roof.
And we also have our, looks like we have our Google Hangout working. At least I think we do.
Yeah, from here. It's been working from Columbia. Professor Tom Hayes is back in Columbia along with Brian Leonard, making sure everything is working properly. And certainly it is. 800-956-7266. We are here with our good friends, our good affiliate. It is Fox Sports Radio, WGBL 1440, here in Greenville. Randy Johnley and the gang over there helping us tonight put on our presentation with Furman. We'll have Furman football coach Clay Hendricks with us in hour number 2. The Paladins coming off a win against Colgate will take on East Tennessee State on Saturday. Bob Ritchie taking over as the Paladins basketball coach. Head coach, he will be joining us, and also Mike Buddy, the athletics director at Furman, will be here too. And this is a great location.
Furman's got a nice non-conference schedule that I want to ask Coach about. They got to go to Duke. They have a couple of other very enticing games, one with Tennessee also. So it should be an interesting year for them.
By the way, speaking of schedules, Clemson released its baseball schedule today.
Yes.
William and Mary will open the season February 16th with a 3-game series at Clemson. Furman, Dallas Baptist comes in for 3, single game with Winthrop. Then the USC series, March 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, beginning in Columbia.
They'll have 3 games this year in Fluor Field here in Greenville. One of them comes against South Carolina.
Yes, they always play the middle game against South Carolina. Wofford, Michigan State, and then their ACC schedule begins with Georgia Tech at Clemson on March 9th. In fact, the Tigers will play 6 ACC games in a row to open ACC play. They will go to Coastal, go to Louisville, they get Boston College at home, they do go to Notre Dame. Coastal will visit Clemson. Miami will come in. They will go to Wake Forest and Virginia. They get Florida State at home. They do have to go to Pittsburgh. Yeah. But looking at it here, no College of Charleston on the schedule.
Charleston Southern is in there.
Yes. All right, so that's a look at the Clemson baseball schedule for the upcoming season. 800-956-7266. Let's go to Dan in North Charleston. Dan, welcome into Sports Talk tonight from Greenville. How are you?
Hello, I'm Glenn.
Oh, Glenn in North Charleston. Hey, Glenn.
Yes, sir. How you doing?
Good, Glenn.
I wanted to say that Brian Edwards and Carolina's got weapons, let's say. They got weapons in Williams and Edwards, and they stepped up when we needed them, and we won the game in the last second field goal finally. And I think the field goal kicker's got his confidence back, and I think everything's going to be 35-14. Carolina's going to win, and they going to demolish Texas A&M. And Williams, Parker's going to get his range back, and when we need him to kick those field goals, he'll do it.
Well, I talked to Parker White on Tuesday during our Talking Tuesday, and an interview we'll feature later on this week. He said that really there wasn't anything that was to the misses. He did everything right preparation-wise. And I swear, Phil, I didn't think that we would honestly spend so much time on 2 kicking situations as we have with both Clemson and with South Carolina, what with Greg Hugel going out for the season with the torn ACL on Clemson's side, and of course the inconsistencies we've seen with the Gamecocks. It really is the old adage: if you don't have a kicker, you have a world problem.
Well, South Carolina's case, their kickers are walk-ons.
Yeah.
They did not spend scholarship on a recruited kicker this time around, so it's a roll of the dice. And they had the open competition, and Alex Wozniak won that competition but did not perform well. They go with Parker White, and he had his issues early, but you know what? When they needed him to come through, he came through big, and he delivered the winning kick for them. And just imagine the pressure that young man must have been feeling.
Oh, absolutely.
Because it was a rowdy crowd after he missed that second field goal and an extra point. They were not real confident in him, no matter how short that kick was. And so to his credit, he stood up in there. He was, I think twice, Skip Holtz called a timeout. I think it was twice. Yeah.
Right.
They froze him twice. And so a lot of thoughts must be going through the head when you're walking around, and no amount of encouragement from the coach or your players can settle you down in that kind of situation. Yes, you just have to go out there and keep your head down and perform, and he did that.
He did, and you mentioned the whole going scholarship route, going to walk down route. Some schools do that, and they guys do it. I think it's such an inexact science these days, and it always has been. And in my mind, I wonder, I'd love to see the stats between the walk-on kickers versus the scholarship kickers, because it isn't always something that works out for the positive.
All right, thanks for your phone call. 800-956-7266 is our phone number here on Sports Talk. We go to Tim in Columbia. Next up, hey, Tim.
Hey, Corn, how's it going?
Good.
Hey, Corn, I'm a Carolina fan, and I look at things and try to keep up with it. With this basketball thing, did you see the article from USA Today where they talked with Michael Beasley?
Yes. Just saw a little excerpt from him, some of his comments.
Yes.
Yeah, and he kind of said that Carl Frank $300 as if anybody would think that he would have anything to do with something like that. But also, yesterday, listening to another station, probably a competition, and they had your old friend Captain on, who had a chance to talk with Evans yesterday, I guess, before he turned himself in today. And he had indicated on the show that Evans stated that these folk were, there was no collusion between him and the other. I guess each assistant coach decided themselves once presented with the bribes that they were going to take. But looking at that timeline, those first two or three coaches, it seems like their issue was basically them getting money to steer their kids to the agents. And that's kind of completely separate from the pay to get a high school student to a place type scenario. And to take with it all the water cap that they had going on with those guys, that if they were able to have that would have come out. That would have been something that they had that lawyer presented on yesterday. So, don't know what's going to come of it.
Yeah, Tim, the LeBron Evans situation is more to do with the financial advisors and the business advisors. Because we're talking about a bunch of separate independent deals. So we're talking bribes, basically all over the place. But what's basically the purpose of the bribes is all different. Like there's the one set of bribes that involves the apparel companies and the schools, and then there's another set of bribes that involve getting guys to agents, business advisors. And trust me, it's all equally under the law. But the fact of the matter is that we're talking about an interconnected network that happens basically in the underbelly of college basketball that got exposed Tuesday by the FBI involving the NCAA.
What scares me is the apparel, because this is the one that makes me think it has the most tentacles, because guys are making investments on a futures market on two separate issues. They develop these camps to send the AAU teams and players to, and they also are funneling money via apparel contracts with schools. So not only are they betting on the future of their brand with the schools, but also with the player. And so if you're driving a certain player to go to a certain school, what does the NCAA do? If it's truly a business model, the NCAA can't say all shoe contracts must be severed from major universities. That's not going to happen. So I can't see how you can cut off both arms and just clear the decks and start over. It seems like an impossibility to me.
All right, going to hit a break here on Sports Talk. We'll be back. 800-956-7266.
Up on the roof in Greenville at the Embassy Suites at Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. We'll be back.
Funky.
Yeah.
Finicky.
I don't know if I might want to move it. Move it over. You want me to move it? Yeah, just move. Yeah. So it gets both of us in there.
Actually, it'd be nice if we could get put it over there so we can get the whole thing and have our
move
guests
back over there that way.
Miss Alexandria, may we have you over here in the hot seats? Randy's warmed it up for you.
Really?
So you'll guide me in what to say, right?
Yeah.
Just look at the turn around
Put that on and let's
just kind of see how.
let you hear yourself.
Kind of to tilt it over that way.
Can you hear yourself okay?
Yes.
Is that too loud?
No, that's good.
That's good.
The only place I wear a headset is in my husband's Razor.
That looks good.
Four-wheel
Just tilt it
Is that
this
right?
way. There you go.
Because it's
So
so
loud.
Yeah.
There you go. That works. That works perfect.
Wait, are you getting the guest chair as well?
Can't see her. Can't see her. All right, try that. All right, Brian, you can help us be our eyes and ears, just because we cannot see where that fill out. That fill out. Oh, it's that fill out.
You can cut me out.
Well, how about against that?
Want me to speak?
Against that other portion there, right there. There you go. And then just go straight on. It's a little tilted.
Randy, you're back in your television days.
There you go.
Pan left, pan right.
How about that, Brian?
That's perfect.
Perfect? Awesome. That's great.
Did you have, what's his name?
Dr. Duddy.
Were you in journalism at Carolina?
Dr. Duddy?
Dr. Duddy?
Yeah.
That was the
Cuss words
nastiest,
every-
meanest.
Green Bay Packers.
I know he was.
Yeah. He ranked it on
He
Vince
would
Lombardi
make people, especially the females,
females. He didn't think they should be in broadcast.
he would make them cry in class.
I had a teacher like that at Carolina.
Really?
Um,
And what major were you in?
mass communications.
Okay.
But golly, what was his name? He was, like the law of communications.
Communications law. Yeah, I had that class too.
God, what was his name? He was so mean. He would even.
But not at Carolina.
He would give you a mug at the end of the semester, and like you passed.
You mean a mug, like a mug shot?
No, like
Or
a
mug?
coffee mug.
Okay.
Like, because most people didn't pass this class.
Really?
Can't remember his name.
I had the professor that I lectured for on Monday was like that. Basically, make you cry.
Yeah.
Dr. Duddick would just break it down.
Yeah, this guy played Division I college football in Tennessee, and he was built like a defensive lineman. Very, very imposing individual.
All right, Brian, we're going to come back and talk to Miss Alexandria here at the up on the roof. And anybody else holding?
Go by Alex.
No, nobody's holding.
Alex is good.
Just go by Alex.
Yep.
Alex, go by Alex.
Yes, sir.
Alex.
She called you sir, Phil.
Yeah, you don't have to do that.
I'm in hospitality there. Oh, everyone, sir.
He's old. You need to. Yeah.
Don't call me sir.
I'm not old. I'm
Yes,
just.
sir.
I'm just.
You talk like my friend that's from San Francisco. Are you from the West Coast?
I am not. I'm from up north, actually.
Oh, I hear that too. But you know, it's okay. I'm from New Mexico, so
Really?
That probably doesn't have a
You've
regional
never met anybody
dialect.
in Mexico.
I get that a lot here. Albuquerque, born and raised.
You just don't get a bunch of people from New
No.
Mexico in this part of the world. And
No,
you don't
not
get a
really.
bunch of people from here out there.
Yeah.
And so people in New Mexico don't want to leave.
Oh,
I hear it's pretty.
It's beautiful.
The guys are always checking email. Send your comments or questions to talkback at SportsTalkSC.com. Now, more of Sports Talk from Columbia's Main Street.
And we're back at Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. We've got some recruiting coming up for you here on Sports Talk in just a couple of minutes. I want to remind you that Sports Talk is brought to you by the South Carolina soybean farmers and their checkoff. Learn more at scsoybeans.org. Powered by soy. We are at a great place. We are at top of the roof, up on the roof. Top of the roof, up on the roof.
Top of the afternoon and evening to you.
At Ruth's Chris Steakhouse here in downtown Greenville, just down from the ballpark, west end of the Embassy Suites Hotel. We're joined by Alex Odom, who is the Director of Sales and Catering for Ruth's Chris. And first of all, thank you for the great setup and taking care of us tonight.
Absolutely. Thank y'all for being here.
It's been a pleasure. What a great view. You get a ton of people up here, I imagine, during the week, but I imagine the weekend in particular, this place must be.
The weekend is crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy, packed out.
What kind of things do you, besides the food and the beverage, what kind of things do you guys like to offer up here?
I mean, the view is really, and it's free.
Yeah.
The view is really what brings people up here. And what's great is we're in a hotel, but we are definitely a destination restaurant and bar. People come to the hotel to come to the bar. And that's something that we were really hoping for when opening this, and it really turned out that way. Greenville's coming here, not just hotel guests.
Absolutely. And of course, Greenville being the kind of city it is, you get a lot of people from out of town A lot of executives coming in from the various industries and things of that nature. I'm sure they make their way over here on a regular basis.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's become a watering hole for a lot of execs and locals and all of that. So we're really happy with how it's turned out.
You get a big sports weekend going here with the televisions and games, NFL and college games.
Yeah, we're getting into that. And actually up here, there's two wings up here, and on one side we started to get a projector and show the game on the wall, and that was, we tried it once and it was a huge hit. So that's going to be something I think that we look into doing every weekend. So that would draw a crowd for sure, especially in the fall.
Lay out for us the menu that you offer up here, what people can expect to see and purchase.
Yeah, so it's a really neat menu. Our chefs are super creative. They try and use a lot of local food. We like to call it share plates, appetizers. I will say one of our signature dishes is the honey soy fried chicken lettuce wraps.
That's right. Points out.
Yeah, really.
They are phenomenal. It's like we're in the South, so you have to have fried chicken on your menu.
No, say that again. What's in that?
Honey soy fried chicken.
Because the soybean farmers would love to hear that.
Well, it's in there.
Soybean farmers in South Carolina.
Look at you.
I'm
satisfying the appetizers.
Providing you with the soy that fit in that wrap.
It's them.
Yeah. So go ahead, tell us more about that.
That would be a dish I would tell you to come up and try. One of the things I would say we're known for is our handcrafted bottled cocktails. Every morning we have our bartenders, all our juice is squeezed fresh from the fruit. It's batched every morning, and it's bottled in these really neat little bottles, and we hand label each one, and people go crazy over those. They're really refreshing. You've got everything from the reedy peach, which is kind of like a sweet flavor, to...
Don't mention peach to me right now. That's kind of
a sensitive subject.
It's an inside story, but just stay away from peach.
How about jalapenos?
That's good.
Okay.
That's totally fine.
Yeah, so we've got several different of our handcrafted cocktails. It's something that's really been a hit for us up here. And our menu changes seasonally. So
that's good.
It's really it's really neat.
And also the thing I love up here too is you have like the overhangs too. You have the big fans as well. So on a hot day in the summer, you can still come up here and get a nice breeze.
Oh yeah,
it's very comfortable up here. Very comfortable.
We got a good night tonight.
Today was a warm day. You come up here and it's breezy.
Come up and have a cold one.
How big? How when Greenville had the NCAA basketball tournament here back in March, South Carolina was having all that success, but you had Duke, you had North Carolina. How wild was it around here with all those fans in
town? It was crazy. We actually had UNC staying with us, and the cheerleaders and the fans lined up in the lobby and did their little cheer. I mean, people could not. I couldn't get in and out of my office. It was so crazy. So it was definitely a hot spot for sure.
And you've got the Peace Center right behind you, so when they're having a big event. A big concert or something, you get a big spillover from that.
Absolutely. We get the pre-dinners in Ruth's Chris and then the after party up on the roof. So it's really nice.
It is. This is great. And of course, you got the ballpark down the street, so imagine during the spring and summer, you get a nice traffic flow.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And you can see the fireworks from here.
Yeah. Well, congratulations on everything here, and thank you for letting us be a part of it with our good friends in Greenville, Randy Jolly, and Fox Sports Radio 1440.
Absolutely.
We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you. That is Alex Oat, also known as Alex Anthony, Director of Sales and Catering here at Up on the Roof at Ruth Chris at the Embassy Suites Hotel here in Greenville. You like recruiting? Alexander, do you follow football recruiting?
Yeah, go Tigers.
But you're from Mexico.
Exactly.
Go Locos. How about go Locos? Wait a minute, you're from New Mexico.
I'm from New Mexico. I went to Carolina.
You must have married a Tiger.
I did marry a Tiger, but I'm not going to tell you my whole story of why I'm a Tiger because it might offend some people. But now I'm in Greenville. I'm a huge Tiger fan, huge Dabo fan. So go Tigers.
Well, I've got a little bit of Clemson recruiting news. Not much for you tonight because there just wasn't a whole lot there. But I'll tell you that the defensive end, K.J. Henry of Clemson, North Carolina, was a Clemson target. Told rivals his next official visit will be to Virginia Tech October 21st. His decision will come in mid-December. He's already been to Georgia. You want to hear more?
Yeah.
Linebacker Dax Holyfield of Shelby, North Carolina. You know who he is?
No.
Okay. Clemson's not recruiting him. He made an official visit to Florida State last weekend. He told 24/7 Sports it was the best visit he has taken. He did not call the Seminoles his favorite, but he said the visit did change his recruitment a lot. He'll go to Virginia Tech this weekend unofficially. He'll visit USC and North Carolina officially. You got to care about Gamecock recruiting since you are a Gamecock.
Not really.
I mean, you graduated, huh? No? Okay.
She's shaking her head, Corn.
He visits USC and North Carolina. You're not making Randy happy.
I'm sorry, Randy.
And North Carolina officially the first 2 weekends of October. He'll return to Blacksburg for an official on October 21st, and he's looking at a visit to Stanford on January 14th. Now, USC has got 2 more defensive backs who plan to take official visits. Israel Mukuyamu of Bossier City, Louisiana. Of course, he was at Berkeley High School. And Jermaine McMillian of Miami. Mukuyamu has got USC set for October 7th, the Arkansas weekend. He got that confirmed last night. He's a Florida State commitment, but is taking his officials. He was at Indiana last weekend. His parents will come with him on this visit, and their opinions will be very important to him as he tries to finalize his decision. And also looking to visit USC on the 7th is McMillian. Now, he doesn't have that finalized yet. He hasn't heard from the Gamecocks in a couple of weeks, so he's waiting to hear back. And he said they just recently called his school to get his transcripts. And, of course, you can't take an official visit unless they have a transcript on file at the school. This weekend, he's going officially to Central Florida, and he's also talking with South Florida, Ole Miss, and Mississippi State. And in basketball, USC assistant coach Chuck Martin paid a visit last week to 2019 6'10" Joel Soriano of White Plains, New York. This according to his coach up there. Getting a lot of interest. His stock rising from the summer and will continue to rise. And he said he is definitely interested in South Carolina and is playing in the SEC.
I didn't realize you could find more captive recruiting on us than me. You found out.
Absolutely. You're really dialed into this, aren't you?
I'm listening.
Yeah. Well, every night on 1440, you stop whatever you're doing. Tune in at 6:06 at the beginning, but then at about 6:45 or so, we do recruiting.
I get my nightly nap at 6:46.
And if you listen, I'll throw in a little New Mexico recruiting as well.
All right.
Is Reggie is still a coach out there?
I think he's still. I've lost track.
No, he's not.
But I mean,
he's at Cal State Northridge.
That's right. I think they did fire him. But the Pit's a heck of a basketball arena, is it not?
It's pretty neat. Yeah. It is. It is.
Thank you so much again.
Thank y'all.
All right, time for the hour break. We'll be back.
That was your best recruiting ever. Thank you so much.
Thank y'all.
So much. First time you had an active person that paid attention. Well, you were dialed in. You were tuned in.
Paul Weir is the head coach in New Mexico now.
So Steve Spurrier put a really bad taste in my mouth when I moved to South Carolina. Like day one.
What happened?
I started working at Ruth's Chris when I was 18 as a hostess in Columbia. I opened at Ruth's Chris.
The one in the Vista?
Yeah. And our VIP nights, we invite all the big wigs. We pay for everything. Just like the server. Well, he comes in, and I was just a hostess. And he was just not very kind. And I was like, whatever. I'm like, who is that? They're like, who is it? I'm 18 from New Mexico. Yeah. So they explained who he is. I'm like, okay. So I see them. He's like, make sure you get me in the back of the scene. I was like, okay.
That sounds like Spurrier.
So put him in the back. Gave him a server that wouldn't care who he was, so he was a father. He brought like 8 people. They probably had like a $2,000 bill. He did not leave his server one dime. Did not tip. And it was very obvious. It was a charity event. All our openings we donate to charity.
Yeah.
And we pay for everybody's food and alcohol. So like even if you leave a 20, I mean, if you have a $1,600, $2,000 bill, you should leave more like $200. But that's fine. Please leave a 20. He didn't leave anything. And he was rude. And so I told her, I was like, I'm rich. And then I married the Tiger. And
how did you get from New Mexico to USC? What brought you
so for the International Business School.
Yeah.
So I double majored in that and marketing.
So you went to international business.
That's good.
What foreign language did you take your freshman year?
Well, Spanish, because I had to take Spanish every year in New Mexico. We took it from kindergarten to senior high school.
So you speak Spanish.
Yeah.
Oh, I learned Spanish. What are you talking about?
My son graduated in business.
Yeah.
But when he went there, his thought was, I'm going to go to international business route.
Hey,
And so he took
the only thing I'm wondering about, Brian, is whether or not we're still getting just the regular. We're getting the regular
he said that the
sound on
There he
the
is.
deal.
Good to see you, bud.
he was totally lost.
Oh,
Coach, how you doing?
We did not know.
Randy Jolly.
Should we mute the phone?
Yeah, really.
You know the firm
I would
food service
probably
I say
mute the audio that we're watching through the website. Audio from the radio.
Coach, how you doing? Hey, thank you for coming out. I appreciate it.
Oh, Steve left. I bought his house.
Yeah.
I was up.
You don't like this, huh?
Yeah, in the fourth. And then I was in the cul-de-sac in a brick house up on top of the hill.
It is there.
I hit golf balls on the power line.
All right, Randy, I'm headed out.
2 of Sports Talk up next with your hosts Phil Kornblut, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes. Don't leave us hanging. Join the show, 800-956-7266.
All right, we are back. Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network on a wonderful Wednesday night from Greenville, up on the roof at Ruth's Chris Steakhouse at the Embassy Suites Hotel in downtown Greenville. Beautiful place to be. Great late evening view of downtown Columbia. Recommend this place highly.
Very much so.
We got our Furman friends here. We go way back with Furman to the early 1980s, and it's good to see athletics director Mike Buddy here with us.
I want to at least comment on Mike's apparel. A fantastic, dope outfit, as the kids say.
Is that right? It does flow well on you.
Well, I try, and I will. A quick shameless plug: I'm wearing pink every day between now and October 31st to raise awareness and money for breast cancer. So I don't always look this sharp, but I appreciate the shout out. Will,
is this something around the campus that's taking place?
It's actually just around Greenville. I was chosen to be one of the quote unquote real men wear pink contestants. Nice. So it's a community effort, and obviously I'm honored to be a part of it.
I love that.
Before we talk about Furman and things happening there, we were talking off air, and of course, as an athletic director at a D1 program in the country now, it's been a very strange 24 hours for college athletics in general and college basketball in particular. What's your take on everything that has come down from the investigation?
Mixed feelings. Obviously, being in the industry of collegiate athletics, anytime that there's a potential black eye, or in this case, I think an obvious black eye, it's unfortunate. But, I'll make the analogy. My previous life, I played Major League Baseball in the middle of the steroid era. And I remember waking up the day that it was announced that they were going to start testing for steroids. And I thought, you know what, this is great, because I never did a steroid. And I thought, finally, the playing field's going to be leveled. And unfortunately, it had to start with the FBI. But it'll be good for the game. It's going to be a rough 6-month period where we're going to have some negative PR. But at the end of the day, I think the playing field will be level. And the guys that are doing it right won't be affected at all. And hopefully the ones who aren't doing it right will get on board and start making some adjustments.
I'm glad you mentioned the analogy to the steroid era, because that was something I made on I do a podcast separate to this, and the interesting situation is going to be how the NCAA responds, because Major League Baseball, at least in its infancy in the steroid era, didn't exactly respond as well as many people would have liked them to, and they really got a lot of flack for that. I'm very interested and curious to see how, I'm sure you feel as well, how the NCAA responds to not only these allegations, but what else could possibly come up as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Unfortunately, occasionally you gotta lay the hammer down to get everybody's attention. The steroid era is a great analogy again, Will, as you said, because Sammy Sosa and Mark McGwire were hitting home runs left and right. It was a great story. People were loving Major League Baseball.
There was prosperity for it.
And of course, you look at these young men who are playing college basketball right now. The talent is unbelievable, and so that's not going to change, fortunately. And so now it's just going to be who's hustling the hardest and whose institution is creating a recruiting atmosphere that's going to be able to attract these attention of these young people instead of dollars and cents.
Do you think the public's going to lose trust in big-time college basketball for the immediate future?
Probably a little bit. The mainstream fans are going to be mainstream fans. Once March Madness starts again, these kids are so talented. It's such a fun game to watch that I think that'll all kind of go away. And unfortunately, sometimes us grown-ups, we kind of mess things up. And at the end, it's a pure game played by young kids who are in phenomenal shape, athleticism that we could only dream of. And hopefully we keep track of. That's the important thing in all of this.
All right, over at Furman, you got a big home game coming up this weekend. We're going to talk with Clay Hendricks in just a little bit, coming off his first win up at Colgate last weekend. So from your vantage point, things around the Furman athletic plants, what things are cooking besides the season's ongoing as far as your facilities and things that you're developing there?
One of the great situations that I walked into is our facilities are top notch. I mean, we really, from top to bottom, are in really good shape. So we can focus on the most important thing in college athletics, which is people. You're going to hear from two of them tonight. Our brand new basketball coach, Bob Ritchie, he's still undefeated. He has not coached his first game yet. And then Coach Clay, of course, as you mentioned, phenomenal effort up in Hamilton, New York last week. It was great to see all the hard work it's a lot to install a new offense, a new defense, a new philosophy, changing the culture. And we all got a chance to see what can happen when things start to click. And it was exciting up there to watch us take on a really good Colgate team and play really well. So got 3 teams ranked in the top 12 in the country: men's soccer, men's cross country, and women's golf. And we're back at it this fall and hoping these kids continue to make us look good.
How important was it for you to have Coach Ritchie, not only have the familiarity with the program, guy who is from the state, and to kind of have some familiarity with what you bring to the table and what you guys want under this program?
It certainly wasn't high on my priority list. I mean, I literally wanted to find the perfect person for that job, the right person for that job. If he was from Gonzaga or Alaska or Texas, I really didn't care. At the end of the day, it shook out that Bob had done so much up to this point. He understood Furman. The 15 kids that we have on our basketball team right now are such great representatives of Furman that it was an easy decision because I knew the character was there. I knew the hustle was there, strong recruiter. And so glad that it worked out. And at the end of the day, I would say with both Clay Hendricks and with Bob Ritchie, we had a lot of candidates who wanted to be a Division I head coach, but none of them wanted to be the head coach at Furman more so than Bob and Clay. And that was important.
And in your time at Furman, you've basically remade the coaching staff in your big 3 sports: new football coach, basketball, and baseball. So these are guys now that, you have brought in, and these are guys that you interviewed and you selected. So you feel like you've got a good young staff in place, and the guys or certainly Clay, having played at Furman, knows what Furman's all about. You feel like the others kind of in that same boat?
Yeah, no question. And Phil, you kind of alluded to it there. There are so many coaches across this country who on paper are phenomenal coaches, but Furman is such a unique place where fit is so important. Coaches could come there and get frustrated with the academic requirements. They could get frustrated with, the financial aid situation. And so to have landed Brett Harker, who's our new baseball coach, and he's got a young and energetic staff. And then, of course, Bob and Clay, what I've been most impressed with is the staffs that they have assembled. They're really good leaders. They're really good organizational theorists, and they have surrounded themselves with people who kind of complete that picture. They're the Jerry Maguire, you complete me. They've surrounded themselves with some great young talent.
Back to the game this weekend. East Tennessee comes to town. Part of the reason why we're here with our Pigskin Preview Live. We're going to talk to Clay about the on-the-field stuff, but I'm sure you want to at least promote what fans will be wearing and what do you want them to show up in this weekend.
Yeah, thank you. Well, you plugged it perfectly. So 1 o'clock kickoff, East Tennessee State. They are bringing several busloads of fans, and we expect it to be a great contest. They've done a good job of getting that program up and running. It is a whiteout, and so we actually have an official whiteout shirt that is on sale on campus in the Trone Student Center. But
Phil's wearing white. Look at that.
I'm ready. I'm ready to go.
He got the memo.
FU all the time.
But anything white. We want the entire side of the stadium to be white top to bottom, and our guys will appreciate that. And it's going to be a beautiful day for football.
They'll still do that, don't you?
Yes, sir.
FU one time?
Yes, we do.
FU 2 time?
Our president no longer leads the cheer, but
he doesn't,
That she does not.
Oh, she doesn't.
But that doesn't.
See, I can remember the day when Dr. Johns would come down from the press box, walk through the stands, and lead the student body in the Furman cheer.
It may or may not still occur late night amongst administrators on campus. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I won't implicate Dr. Davis on that.
Well done.
Thank you for joining us. And by the way, with the baseball playoffs coming up next week, you will be rooting for
the Cleveland Indians.
Come on, man. You were a Yankee at one time.
They're my fallback plan.
Is that right?
Did you ever think you would hear that the Yankees were the fallback plan of the Cleveland Indians?
Not really, but the Yankees are red hot right now.
They're playing well.
What do you think about Mr. Judge?
He is a freak of nature. Seeing guys like that swing the bat make me happy that I'm retired, because that is that's a tall task trying to get that guy out.
What was your favorite park to pitch in?
I loved going to the Jake, which was where I grew up, Cleveland Indians. But Camden Yards was special. I was actually in the park in the bullpen the night that Cal decided not to play. It was a very special memory of mine. Because of that, I am in the Hall of Fame in Cooperstown. I'm doing air quotes for those of you listening. But so all of it was a great memory.
Thank you so much.
Guys, thanks for all you do for the Upstate Athletics.
We appreciate it. Mike Buddy, the athletic director here at Furman University. We're in Greenville, and we'll be right back after this break. Tournament night here on Sports Talk as we welcome into the program from here in Greenville, Coach Clay Hendricks of the Paladin football team getting his first career win as a head coach last weekend up at Colgate. Tremendous win. And first of all, congratulations. How's it feel to have that first number one in the left-hand column for you?
Really good. It, had a couple of challenges there. The first couple of weeks had chances and couldn't quite get over the hump, and had put ourselves in a position to win a game and just couldn't quite do it. And then played really well. Had a big lead at half, which made it a little bit easier.
Yeah.
But no, it was good. It was good. I'm kind of interested to see how we, hopefully a little bit of a confidence boost. We've played pretty well at times, just been really inconsistent.
Well, you had those two close losses. You could have opened the season 2-0. You had losses that came at the very end. You went to Raleigh, and halftime, it's a one-possession game. And look, NC State's good. They lost to South Carolina to open the season. They haven't lost since. And they might run the table until they get to Clemson, and we see what happens. So that's no shame there. So you've come out of the gate in pretty good shape in terms of the effort and the performance.
Yeah, we had a couple of injuries that we played Saturday without our top 4 inside linebackers. We started 2 true freshmen. We've had a couple of guys out, really, really young, which has made it challenging. But there have been stretches where we've played pretty good on both sides of the ball and easily played our best game Saturday. And hope we play our best one this week. We should. We're to that point program-wise. We quit talking about the young guys. We're not young anymore. We've played 4 games and 5-week preseason, August practice. You're a pretty seasoned guy.
Sure. How much does a stretch like the first 2 weeks, you play a conference opponent and you have the close loss at Elon, how much does that make your team stronger? You mentioned the fact that a lot of those young guys are not young anymore. I know that maybe the confidence might take a bit of a hit, but it does strengthen you.
Well, you know what? Somebody asked me if we even changed after a win, and I said, our kids have been great at practice. I've kind of felt the focus. I just tried to emphasize to them, we have a plan. We're going to stick to the plan. There's going to be some bumps in the road. Just trust us and keep working. And really that's kind of how they've been. Which is, obviously there's been some disappointment, but there's been a lot of encouragement. There's a lot of encouraging things I've seen that thinks, we played pretty good Saturday, but we can play a lot better. You asked me about Coach Sheridan, just get a little better each day, and I think that's kind of the team we've got to be.
Do you feel like at this stage now, you and your staff have kind of settled in, and you know your players well, they know you well, and they've made that transition successfully to where you can build on what you've accomplished in the first third of the season? I
think so. Right now we've got 1 senior and our 2 deep on defense, and he's not a starter. And so we've played a lot of kids. I tell you, probably the biggest adjustment, even for me, I'm an offensive guy and I spend most of my time there. We've got a really great group of guys over there, but us still learning each other, even though we knew each other, it was 4 or 5 different systems coming in there, and we aren't always on this. You want to get to the point where, some guy says, let's do this. Okay, we're all on the same page. We're not quite where we can do that just yet. But you kind of see that coming.
In your 2 deep on the offensive line, you go, I think it's like sophomore, senior, freshman, at least with the starting. But how important is it to have that senior in the middle like Matthew Smith, who was able to not only be a co-captain, and Schmidt is just able to make that whole thing kind of go and be kind of that captain in the middle there?
I tell you, Matt Schmidt is a really good football player. And I'm a 30-year offensive line coach. He's maybe as good a player as I've coached.
Really?
I think he could play a lot of places. Physically, I think he could play I think he could play at a Power 5 school as a center.
Wow.
Really smart, tough kid. That certainly has helped. We go up to NC State with those 2 redshirt freshman tackles, and I really like the kids. And, and I'm probably a little harder on them. And then, you start looking at the Chubb kid, who's probably a first-round pick, one playing against the other kid is unbelievably talented. I think the McKenzie kid.
Yep.
And I said, I probably ought to give him a little bit of a break or a little bit of a pass. But that group is making great progress. They are. We're nowhere near where we need to be. But we're trying to do some things to give them a chance to settle in and be successful. We have we have a veteran quarterback.
I was going to ask you.
I really like the kid.
Yeah.
He's got a good skill set. He's the kind of guy we're looking for, you know.
To inherit a quarterback who basically you could just plug right in and run your offense, right?
I think he probably is better suited for what we're doing than maybe what they were asking him to do before, you know. And, you know, we weren't going to be Air Force double slot. That's not what the plan was. But he can do some things. He has really good feet. He can make about every throw you ask him to make. You know, and we've tried to be smart with him as well. But that's been huge.
I can't remember if I asked this of you before when we talked to you earlier in the year, but you know, you have to balance what you want to do versus the personnel that you have, because it's not all your recruited personnel, it's stuff you inherited.
Absolutely. And I think that'll be a process that will continue, you know, as we go through recruiting and add. We kind of know what we want to be. We're maybe having to do a few more things than probably we'd like to do. You know, we didn't want to get into a quarterback running game. We're going to run our quarterback some. Sure. That's just part of who we are. But just trying to be smart. Yet, you know, we're, I think, maybe third, and I think we lead the country maybe in yards per reception, or in the top 3 or 4 in yards per reception. We've hit a lot of big passes in the throw game. I actually think we've done that better than run the ball. We're going to run the ball better than we're doing.
All right, so you are 0-2 in SoCon play.
0-1.
I'm sorry, 0-1 in Southern Conference play. You got a Southern Conference game this weekend with East Tennessee, so you're still trying to get that first Southern Conference win. But how do you see the league, and how do you see where you think you guys might fit in as you go down the stretch?
Well, you know, Wofford was picked to win it. You know, in both polls they're coming out, and, you know, we go for 2 to beat them with 40 seconds to go in the game. First game we've ever played. So, you know, you're thinking if they're the best team, then –
Why'd you go for 2? Why didn't you kick it for
I don't know. You know, we scored. I don't know if you remember, we scored with about 45 seconds. We broke a run. We had been on the field the entire fourth quarter. At the time, I thought their kicker was a little better than ours. We had a play we really liked that we prepped and just thought we had a chance to – we'd executed, done against our own defense, had been good. And that kid made a good play. You know, since that time, our kicker's done great. I think he missed one that game. I haven't missed one since. Yeah. But I don't know. It's just, I don't know. First game, I just said, heck, we got 3 yards to probably win the game, and let's go win the game.
What can you tell us about East Tennessee coming in this weekend?
Yeah, you know, a little different challenge for our defense. Spread team, likes to spread it out, you know, 4 or 5 wide. Throw around, good quarterback, lefty that was a transfer kid that makes good decisions. Pretty good athlete. He can hurt you running. They want to probably throw it first. You know, Mike O'Kane's the offense coordinator, and, you know, go way back. I was in GA at NC State years ago.
Carl Torbush, the head coach.
Defense, you know, the head coach, and, you know, he's a defensive guy and really similar structure to what we do. So it'll be a good challenge. You know, that program started back, and they essentially have the entire team back that they had a year ago. And I think they'll have most of them back again next year.
Are you sensing now, you know, excitement among in the fans? I mean, you've had just the one home game against Elon, so I mean, you can't really get a barometer on things. But what do you think? What do you hear around campus?
The Furman people have been phenomenal to me. I you know, I kind of judged it even when I was at Air Force all those years for the amount of success we had. It's really been encouraging how excited the people have been. They've reached out to me even after a game or two when we weren't successful, but just maybe seeing the change. And I don't know what that always means because I hadn't seen them play the last few years, but I don't know how many people it's just obvious in just watching them play and the effort and the discipline and you know, those type of things, which is what we're trying to do. So that's been encouraging. And, you know, ultimately we got to win some games.
Sure.
You know, I mean,
that's what it all boils down to.
That's what we want to do. And, you know, Mike and administration have been phenomenal, and we've got some good players. Recruiting's gone really well. We only had about a month to recruit the last year class. It turned out really well. I think our staff will do a good job. You know, a little bit of it is educating those guys too. You know, Mike, you know, talked about it. Furman's a unique place. Yeah. You know, we're one of the few Division I football schools that truly plays with student athletes. I mean, true student athletes. If you just want to be as honest with you as you can, there aren't many of them out there. We're one of them, and you know, I kind of embrace that. And we won with those guys and played championship football. And the plan is to play championship football again. And
we wish you the best of luck, and thank you so much for coming over. Always good seeing you.
Well, I appreciate you having me. Appreciate it. You know, it's great driving. I used to drive through this stadium recruiting and would hear you.
We thank you so much.
We'll
be right back.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Okay, good seeing you. We appreciate it. Thank you. And listen, the Yankees and the Indians together. We'll have to have a little wage here. Friendly.
We'll have a beer and watch.
Bruce Chris in Columbia versus Bruce Chris here. No? I like it. Can your budget handle?
That'd be personal.
All right. Come on in, Bob. When y'all start? I didn't say that. You did. I'm in practice. You know what? We have our first official practice Saturday morning. But it seems like basketball starts about 3 years ago.
You see we switched the camera there, Brian?
Yeah, it's sideways. I gotta see if I can flip the screen.
Oh, it's sideways? I'll flip it myself.
Saw what we talked about this. Saw what Roy and Chip.
These guys, they never sleep. Check them out on the web at SportsTalkSC.com. Now, more of Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network.
We continue from Greenville tonight here on Sports Talk, and we're brought to you by your local South Carolina Electric Cooperative, sponsor of this year's annual Touchstone Energy Cooperatives Bowl. And to find out more about what the co-ops are doing across the state, visit ecsc.org. Be sure to save the dates, December 9th, 2017 Touchstone Energy Cooperatives Bowl.
We got a captive audience now up here on the roof here.
You mean somebody's like being held against their wish to sit up here and listen to us?
They just waved at us.
Is that right?
So I'm guessing they're saying hello.
That's good. That's good. We appreciate
Thank you
that.
for coming, by the way. Thanks
We
for
are
listening.
visiting with the folks from Furman. We've had Mike Buddy, the athletic director, Clay Hendricks, the football coach. We now welcome Bob Ritchie, first-year head basketball coach at Furman.
What is that like?
Good to see you.
What is that like, right?
Yeah.
Glad to be on the show tonight, Phil. This is a treat, and beautiful view up here. I actually haven't been on the rooftop here at the new Embassy Suites, but this is gorgeous.
It is.
And,
it is. You should think about doing your coaches show up here or something.
Be a great idea.
Yeah.
Be a great idea. We're constantly reminded of how blessed we are to be in downtown Greenville, but when you see these views, I mean, it's a great city, great venue here. So appreciate you guys having us on.
Our pleasure. And like Will said, I mean, all of a sudden you become the head coach at Furman with everything that changed. And what'd you think? Did it catch you by surprise that you would be the next guy up?
You know what? I think anytime you decide that this is what you want to do for a living, you always have to be ready for that moment. And, you know, it's one of those things where as an assistant, I've worked for great bosses that have allowed me to partake in different activities and have different responsibilities to prepare me for being in this position. And as I started to see when we started to turn the corner a couple years ago, and we played in the conference championship 3 years ago, and then 2 years ago we won 19 games, and Steven was player of the year, and then we had all those guys back. you wanted to start to prepare and start to think, like, what would it look like if we did have this opportunity? And so, I'm just blessed to have an AD like Mike and to be able to work at a great institution. And the beauty of it is we have all our players coming back except one. And so that makes it a whole lot easier.
Now, it's one thing being an assistant coach and you were working with the guards, and so that was your focus.
Yep.
Now, I mean, everything is under your watch. Do you know how you're going to be, your sideline demeanor, and how you're going to handle the officials and things of that nature, your game time management and all that?
You know what? Some of that I think is trial by error a little bit. You just won't know until you do a lot of it. I know what I want it to look like.
Yeah.
I don't want to get too caught up in that. I think there's some things you got to focus on what you can control. And the refs, they do their best. They do the best they can. There's always going to be a human element to it. It's a really, really hard job.
Do you think you'll be a screamer?
I don't see myself doing that.
Yeah.
Nah, I don't see myself being that.
Yeah.
I just, you want to focus on the task at hand, and you want to make sure you guys are ready to play and prepared to play. And, we go out there and we always tell them, right? Like, you got to fight through adversity. You got to be able to respond when bad things happen, and you got to be able to stay calm. And, we want to project that as a staff, and regardless of up 10, down 10, focus on this play and see what happens.
Whether you're a first-year coach or a 40-year coach, you take something from the lineage that you at least inherited, or even people that you know in your circle. What's the best advice that you've gotten from either somebody who you either served with or has reached out to you since you've gotten the job?
You know what? It's been awesome just to be able to talk to some people, and everybody's always willing to help. I think the best thing that resonated the most with me is be yourself, stay convicted. You got to figure out how you want this thing to look. Right. And the earlier you figure out that, the better. Recruit to it. Be about that, because where we go awry in coaching is we try to replicate, and then we start changing, and we're not who we are. And, so I want to be who I am.
I'll follow up. How do you want it to look?
You know what? A lot of it, I tell people, I get asked that question a lot. 70% of it, I would say, will look really similar to what we've seen here at Furman in the past few years. We're going to start, a physical man-to-man defense. It's all going to start there. And that's where we've really created the success that we've had recently is on the defensive end. In transition, we've been really, really good the last 2 years. Last year, we were in the top 15 in the country in transition offense. So we're gonna continue that. In the half court, we're gonna play a little faster, and we're gonna run it on makes a little bit more, and we're gonna try to bring a little bit more tempo to the game. And I think we were 253 in tempo last year in the country. And we're not gonna go breakneck speed by any means, but we would like to play a little faster, and we shoot the ball really, really well. We got fantastic guards. I think we're built to be able to play fast. We've experimented with it this summer, and it's one of those things, right, as you meet as a staff. Right now it looks really, really good offensively. Is that because we're that good offensively, or is that because we're not guarding well? you don't know until you get real competition out there. But I would say 70% the same, but I think the tempo will be a little bit faster.
Yeah, I was looking at your numbers, and one thing that has stood out about this turnaround in Furman basketball is you've had some good shooters.
We have.
And your numbers look good. I mean, as a team last year, over 47% from the floor. Turnovers a little bit high, maybe about 15 a game. Is that going to be an area of emphasis in camp to reduce that turnover margin a little bit in your favor?
So, that's actually down from the year before. That's been something that we've continued to harp on. And what's funny about that is, as you do all the analytics, I mean, they have more analytic services out there than you can imagine right now. That was another reason. When you studied the numbers, when we played slower, we actually turned the ball over more. And when we played faster, we turned the ball over less.
Wow.
And so, as Coach Balkin would tell us down at the Citadel, just shoot it before you can turn it over. There's probably some truth to that. And we're not going to play quite that fast. But, one thing I will say to that, we did turn it over at a slightly above average rate. But I tell you, we passed that ball really well, and the assist numbers were really good. We had multiple games of 20-plus assists, and that's still going to be at the core of what we do. Play with some space, play with pace, move the ball, and we shoot it well. I mean, we led the league in 3-point field goal percentage last year, and we got to continue. That's recruiting, so we got to continue to recruit shooters.
You're going to have 4 games as part of the Phil Knight Invitational. You get to go to some real great arenas. You get to go to Cameron Indoor, play Duke. You get to play at Hinkle Fieldhouse. You get to play 2 games in Nashville. That part of your schedule, very, very interesting. You get to play Tennessee as well. What do you like about your schedule and the fact that it'll challenge you, I'm sure, early on?
I think it's a very competitive schedule. I think there's a lot of even our regular series home and home games I think are extremely competitive versus some teams and other leagues that are at the top of their leagues. But I think a lot of it in the non-conference, trying to find a way to enhance the student athlete experience, and to be able to go to Duke is an unbelievable experience. And we all know what that program's about and the history in that building. And the same thing with Butler. I think that's going to be a pretty cool trip. I mean, we all know about Hinkle and, what that program's been able to accomplish. And, Tennessee, the player of the year in the league last year, Devin Sibley was a junior. He'll be a senior. We have him coming back, and he's from Knoxville. So we really did that game to try to get him back home. And nice. And plus it's an easy trip. It's an SEC team. And a lot of times, like last year, we played Georgia. That was on the SEC network. We played Michigan. That was on the Big Ten network. Anything you can do to get on TV for recruiting and plus for your guys, I think is advantageous.
All right, tough week for Division I basketball, and obviously it's at a different level from where you are. But you're a Division I basketball coach, and so this kind of impacts your profession in some form or fashion. What's from your vantage point? What are you taking away from what you're seeing this week?
You know what? Integrity pays off. And I think that here's the thing. A lot of people are saying tough week. I disagree with that. I think it's a great week. And I know that can be controversial. I hate to see anybody get arrested. I hate to see anybody have to go through some of the things that they're having to go through. We know the rules. We know what's right. All right. Nobody can raise their hand and say, I didn't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so it's gotten to a point where it's out of control and something needed to be done. And I hate that it's got to go to this extreme, but it needed to change because there are some people out there trying to do it the right way.
Do you think this will lead to a remake of the upper level of Division I basketball, especially on the recruiting side? Or is this just going to, as this passes on, they'll just get back to doing it a few years down the road?
It just depends, right? It depends how it unfolds. And what has been frustrating to people that try to do it the right way, but also to, I think, some fans and spectators, is that we hear about these major cases, but then they just disappear, right? And the same people but remain in charge, the same teams stay atop. As we saw this afternoon, I mean, there's already starting to changes taking place. Now, how long that will continue and what extent, we don't know. But I tell you, if it continues to unfold the way it looks like it might unfold, I think as we speak, there are some changes in just internal decision making. What are you willing to do and what line are you willing to cross? And it needs to be addressed.
Thank you, Bob.
Best of luck
Appreciate
this
it.
year.
Good luck to you this season.
guys.
Look forward to keeping in touch.
Thank you, Phil. Appreciate you guys having me on.
Bob Ritchie, Furman Basketball. Back in a moment. All right, we're back at Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Thanks again to the folks from Furman for being with us tonight. Had a great time talking with them. Mike Buddy, Bob Ritchie, and Clay Hendricks. Good luck to all of them moving forward. Big weekend at Furman with East Tennessee State
and
coming to town. And as you mentioned, it's a whiteout.
Wear white.
Wear your whites if you're a Furman fan headed to Furman this coming weekend for the East Tennessee State game.
Mike didn't bring any white for us, unfortunately.
I did. I got my white on.
Yeah.
I wanted to mention this, too, and going over that Clemson baseball schedule a moment ago. Looks like the Tigers are going to play Georgia in a first-ever game at a new ballpark.
North Augusta, yes.
SRP Park in North Augusta. So that's an interesting note to the Clemson baseball schedule. Now, normally on Wednesday we have the M&M boys at 6:30. We got everything kind of pushed around because of our travels today. We do have Will Merritt's one half of the M&M boys. We got one M, and I think Corey's going to join us here in just a couple of minutes. He's been tied up with some of his work, but shortly. Will, how are you?
I'm doing good, guys. How are you?
We're great. We're great. You ever been up here to up on the roof at the Embassy Suite in downtown Greenville?
I've been there once, and it was absolutely magnificent. It's beautiful up there. So,
and it's a great night, and we got an unbelievable view of all of downtown Greenville. Okay, so the Tigers kind of struggled through things for a while against Boston College. Yeah,
come on with me. I understand why. Yeah, he's avoiding me. I get that.
You still think he's scared?
Dodging you.
Oh, he's scared of me. I know he's scared of me. Yeah, why wouldn't he be? After what he did last week, yeah, he's scared of me.
Well, they did win. I mean, they did pull out a victory.
Against Louisiana Tech? Really? Last minute?
Wow.
Really? That's what I call a good win?
I didn't say it was a good win. I just said it was a W. 3-1 looks a heck of a lot better than 2-2.
That's right. That's right. South Carolina Gamecocks have done a good job of continuing to win. Let's just put it that way.
So you're not giving them a lot of hope against Texas A&M this weekend?
Well, I mean, if it weren't, a Sutherland-led Texas A&M, yes, I would give him a lot of hope. But I don't have a whole lot of faith in him either. So
yeah.
The SEC is not what it was a few years ago. I'm sorry, guys. It's just not the same SEC.
Now, your team had its own struggles against Boston College. Why did Clemson make that a fourth-quarter game?
Yeah, that's a great question. And, I've talked to a lot of guys there this weekend. But, at the end of the day, they won, by 4 touchdowns, and that's what they do. That is a typical Boston College game. They just play tough between the trenches. And I think this is a Clemson team that's just learning. And I think that what you saw last year, they learned from every single week. And, guys, I'm going to tell you right now, you can mark it down. They're going to learn from what they do this week, and they got better last year, and they're going to get better this year every single week, and they're going to get better all the way to the end of the year.
Are you scared about going up to Lane Stadium a little bit there, Will?
No, sir, I'm not.
Well, now, when you were a player, didn't you play at Virginia Tech?
I hated playing there.
Well, you know how tough that place can be.
So that's the loudest place I've ever played in my life. That's the loudest, nastiest place I've ever played in my life. I mean, they spit on you when you walk out of the tunnel. They were nasty to you when you walk out, and when you walk into halftime, they spit on you and they threw stuff at you, and they were nasty. But you know what? When you win in a place like that, it's that much more gratifying.
They like to score now up at Virginia Tech.
It's going to be low scoring.
You think the defenses are going to dominate?
Yes, sir, I do. I think it's going to be Clemson 24, the Hokies about 10.
So, talking with Will Merritt, one half of the M&M boys here on this Wednesday night edition of Sports Talk from up in Greenville. You go back and you look at the offensive performance, 6 punts, couple of interceptions. Got the running game going big late. Etienne, had some nice big runs. But did you see anything with the offensive performance last week that gives you cause for concern?
Hey, the only thing that calls for concern is we got to do better at blitz pickup. When they throw blitzes at us, we've got to be able to pick them up. And we went jumbo package with Etienne in there a couple of times, and we didn't bring up we didn't do a good job at blitz pickup. So, we got to do a much better job at that. But outside of that, Boston College threw some stuff at us that we didn't, we didn't know they were going to throw at us. And it worked. But it didn't work enough, obviously, because we still won by 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, I'm with you kind of, Will, on the offensive line.
I'm going to be caught.
The right side of that offensive line concerns me, whether it's Ankrum or Pollard on that right side at tackle, and even Crowder. They had some real slippage, and Kelly Bryant was, I think after a while, he was also kind of seeing some ghost pressure because he let it go a couple of times a lot sooner than the pressure came there.
Well, I don't think they're not going to fix that this week. They know about it. They're going to fix it. And I can't say too much, but I can promise you they're fixing it this week.
Oh, you know some secrets?
No, I don't. I'm not privy to anything I can say, but I can tell you.
All right, hang on. We only got about 90 seconds, but our special guest has arrived. Corey, what say you?
What's up, guys? How you doing?
Good. We've been missing
really?
you. It's been a crazy day, man. We are doing a new system here in the TV world, and we're having to learn like I've been back in class all day.
All right, hey, listen, we're short on time because everybody's running late, but Will's been calling you a chicken, saying that you're dodging him and all that. I pointed out to him that the Gamecocks did win last week.
Yeah, how quickly we forget. Doesn't matter how you win it. Last I heard, you have one more point more than the other team failed. It's a W, right?
That's what I heard.
And give credit to Louisiana Tech as well too, because Skip Holtz had a great game plan. They're a talented team, but I saw something in South Carolina. They are a team that they will keep fighting to the end. They got a lot of passion, a lot of resilience, and I like what I saw, and I think it really prepares them going into this road game against Texas A&M.
Yeah, take that, Will.
Yeah, take that, Will. What is he talking about? He's got.
I think we lost Will.
The best team in America, right, Phil?
No, you didn't lose,
man.
He's not going anywhere. He's just speechless.
The number one team struggle.
Did that leave you speechless? What Corey just said?
No, I'm speechless at stupidity. Yeah.
What's going to happen this weekend, guys? Really quick.
Well, Will's already said that Clemson's going to win. Go ahead.
Let me just say this: the Gamecocks will upset Texas A&M, and we'll go to 4-1.
Oh, good gosh!
Blackbird's going to be rocking. I'm going to tell you right now, Phil Kornblut. The Clemson Tigers will for real be purple after this game, for sure.
So
Hokies.
You like Virginia Tech to beat Clemson?
Yeah, I'm not so on the offense.
Can he be so wrong?
Offense for 3 quarters that was stymied at home by Boston College, and they ran out of gas. 2 interceptions. It's going to be the Hokies. False has been there 30,000 years. He knows how to stop that offense.
This is the perfect way to end the show, I think.
Yeah, Clemson is averaging 40 points a game against Virginia Tech last 3 games.
We got the trophy in the lobby. You don't.
This is a new game.
Hey, short but sweet. We thank you guys. We'll talk to you next week. On time next week. You hear me?
We'll be in Myrtle Beach, I think, next week on Wednesday, right?
That is true. Yeah.
So I might get a little delayed, too.
No. We'll get them. It wasn't because of this. It was delayed. They just had things going on in their lives.
Thank you, Greenville. Thank you, Up on the Roof, for having us. We really enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
And thanks to Randy Jolly from our Greenville affiliate, WGVL, Sports Radio 1440, Fox Sports Radio. We thank him for his assistance.
Back to Columbia for a day and then traveling again.
Have a nice trip. We'll see you tomorrow. Good night, everybody.